Okay, let's dive right into this. We're going to tackle a huge question today, a really fundamental one. What is a thought? Is it just some, I don't know, ghostly spark in your head? Or is it something real, something physical? We're about to walk through a fascinating philosophical argument that makes a really bold claim about what consciousness actually is. So, right off the bat, here's the core puzzle we're looking at. When you have an idea, maybe something simple like, I want to grab a coffee, is that thought as physical as the coffee cup you're about to pick up? I mean, really think about that. That's the big question we're going to unpack here. Okay, so to even start answering that, we need to get our heads around the philosophical starting point for this whole argument. It's a concept called materialism, and it really just boils down to one simple but totally absolute rule. And here's that rule. It's super straightforward. For a materialist, everything that exists is material. It's physical. There's no separate, spooky, immaterial world. None. It's an all-or-nothing deal. If something exists, it's made of stuff. Full stop. This slide really lays out the two big competing ideas. On the left, you've got the materialist view. One world, one kind of substance. Pretty clean, right? But on the right, you've got the total opposite, which is called dualism. And dualism says, nope, there are two completely separate worlds. You've got the physical world of things you can touch, and then you have this totally separate, non-physical world of thought and consciousness. All right, now this is where things get really interesting. The source material we're looking at points out this kind of contradiction. It argues that some thinkers who would absolutely call themselves materialists, specifically some Marxist philosophers, can accidentally fall into a trap that, well, it lands them right back in the dualist camp. They end up breaking their own number one rule. So the source points out this specific issue. It says that while these thinkers might say thought is based on the material, the way they talk about it, the way they analyze it, it ends up treating consciousness like it belongs to some other non-physical category. You see the problem? It's a subtle slip, but it's a huge one for their whole argument. So yeah, that's the core of the problem right there. You can't really have it both ways. You can't say everything is physical, but then treat thought as if it's this special non-physical exception. Either it's all physical, thought included, or your whole materialist framework starts to fall apart. It creates this massive logical headache. And that headache has a name. It leads us straight to this classic philosophical puzzle that trips up anyone who believes in a separate, non-physical mind. It's called the interaction problem. And a great way to think about it is the problem of the ghost in the machine. Okay, let's just play along for a second and say the dualists are right. So over here in this bubble, you have the immaterial world. That's where your thoughts, your feelings, your decisions all live. And then over here, you have the material world. Your body, your brain, the chair you're sitting in, two completely separate realities. So here's the billion-dollar question. How do those two worlds talk to each other? How can a non-physical thought, something with no weight, no energy, no physical properties at all, how can it possibly reach across that divide and make something physical happen? It's literally like asking how a ghost, which has no body, can pick up a real solid book. How does it work? Let's just walk through this step by step. Step 1. A thought pops into your head. I want to drink some water. Simple enough. Step 2. Your physical arm reaches out and your hand grabs a physical glass. A physical action. Okay, now step 3. We know from, all of physics that a physical action needs a physical cause. And whoops, that's step 4, the problem. If your thought was non-physical, what was the physical push that started the whole chain reaction? You've got a cause and effect chain with a ghost for the first link. It just doesn't connect. So how do we get out of this mess? Well, according to this materialist argument, the solution is actually incredibly simple. You just have to follow that one rule we started with all the way to its logical end. And here it is. The interaction problem, it just evaporates if you realize there aren't two separate worlds to begin with. The very fact that your thoughts can cause your body to move is all the proof you need. If something can interact with the material world, it has to be part of the material world. It's that simple. So, what does this mean for all those words we use for our inner life? Consciousness, mind, ideas, even things like soul or spirit. From this purely materialist point of view, they're not separate things at all. They're just different labels we use to talk about one single, incredibly complex physical object, the brain and everything it does. Okay, so what's the big takeaway here? Why does any of this matter? Well, if thought really is a material process, then it completely changes how we should try to understand it. The answers aren't going to be found in abstract philosophy about some immaterial world. Nope. The answers are in the brain itself, in the firing of neurons, the chemical reactions, and how that physical organ interacts with the physical world around it. And this final quote from the source really nails it. Avoiding that dualist error is what keeps the whole analysis honest and consistent. It's about recognizing that all phenomena, from a rock to an idea, have a material basis. There are no exceptions. Which, of course, leaves us with a pretty mind-bending final thought. If consciousness is, at its core, a physical process, just like, say, digestion is a physical process, what does that mean for the future? Could we one day engineer it? Repair it? Could we literally replicate a mind from scratch? If thoughts are physical, the possibilities are just staggering to think about.